An Irishman walks into a bar in Dublin and orders 3 pints of Guinness. He sits in the back of the room drinking a sip out of each one in turn. When he finished all three, he comes back to the bar and orders 3 more. The bartender says to him, "You know, a pint goes flat after I draw it, and it would taste better if you bought one at a time." The Irishman replies, "Well, you see, I have 2 brothers. One is in America, the other in Australia, and I'm here in Dublin. When we all left home, we promised that we'd drink this way to remember the days when we all used to drink together." The bartender admits that this is a nice custom and leaves it there. The Irishman becomes a regular in the bar and always drinks the same way. He orders 3 pints and drinks the 3 pints by taking drinks from each of them in turn. One day, he comes in and orders 2 pints. All the other regulars in the bar notice and fall silent. When he comes back to the bar for the second round, the bartender says, "I don't want to intrude on your grief, but I wanted to offer my condolences on your sad loss." The Irishman looks confused for a moment, then a light dawns in his eyes and he laughs. "Oh no," he says, "everyone is fine. It's just that I've quit drinking." Once upon a time, the government had a vast scrapyard in the middle of a desert. Congress said someone may steal from it at night. So they created a night watchman position and hired a person for the job. Then Congress said, how does the watchman do his job without instruction? So they created a planning department and hired 2 people. One person to write the instructions, and one person to do time studies. Then Congress said, how will we know the night watchman is doing his tasks correctly? So they created the quality control department and hired 2 people. One to do the studies and one to write the reports. Then Congress said, how are these people going to get paid? So they created a timekeeper and a payroll officer position, then hired 2 people for the roles. Then Congress said, who will be accountable for all of these people? So they created an administrative section and hired 3 people, an administrative officer, assistant administrative officer, and a legal secretary. Then Congress said, we have had this command in operation for 1 year, and we are $18,000 over budget. We must cut back on overall cost. So they laid off the night watchman. I was walking past the outside of an insane asylum the other day. As I walked along beside it, I heard chanting coming from behind the fence further up. They were chanting numbers, or rather just one number. 13, 13, 13, they excitedly chanted. All of them were saying the same number over and over. As I approached, I saw a small hole in the fence just big enough to look through. So, with the crowd continuing to chant, 13, 13, 13, I leaned down to look in the hole to see what was happening in there. Just as I put my eye to the hole, a finger poked me in the eye. The crowd cheered loudly and started chanting again. 14, 14, 14. The desk clerk at the base motor pool is away eating his lunch. One of the mechanics goes through the office on his way to the latrine. Since he hears the phone ringing, he answers the phone and says, "Motor pool." "Yes," comes a gruff voice on the other end of the line. "Can you tell me what kind of transportation you have for officers?" "Yeah," says the soldier. "We've got Chevrolets for the lieutenants, Pontiacs for the captains, Oldsmobiles for the majors, Buicks for the colonels, and for those fat-ass generals we've got Cadillacs." "Soldier," says the voice on the other end of the line, "do you know who this is?" "No, sir, I don't," says the soldier. "This is General James Cornwall," booms the voice on the other end of the line. After a slight pause, the soldier responds with equal bravado, "General, do you know who this is?" "No, I don't," responds the general. "Well then, so long, fat ass," says the soldier as he hangs up the phone. The flight wasn't carrying enough meals for all passengers. Airborne less than 30 minutes on an outbound evening flight, the flight attendant for the cabin crew nervously made the following painful announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so very sorry, but it appears that there has been a terrible last-minute error by our airport catering service. I don't know how this has happened, but we have 103 passengers on board and unfortunately only 40 dinner meals. I truly apologize for this mistake and inconvenience. When the passenger muttering died down, she continued, anyone who is kind enough to give up their meal so that someone else can eat will receive free unlimited drinks, alcoholic or otherwise, for the duration of our flight. Her next announcement came 90 minutes later. If anyone would like to swap their choice, we still have 40 dinner meals available. The Pope was having a state visit with the Queen of England when they decided they should make an appearance together. They came out onto the balcony of Windsor Castle and stood there for the crowd to cheer and take pictures. The Queen decided to have a bit of fun at the Pope's expense and said to him, "Watch this. With one wave of my hand, I can make every Englishman cheer for 5 full minutes." She does so, and the Englishmen predictably applaud madly. Not to be outdone, the Pope says to the Queen, "Very impressive. Now, watch me. With a nod of my head, I can make every Irishman in the crowd cheer for 10 minutes straight." The Queen figures the Pope's just made an impossible offer, so she agrees to give him his chance. He stands, faces the crowd, and headbutts the Queen. A guy at a bar was just looking at his drink. He stays like that for half an hour. Then this big troublemaking truck driver steps next to him, takes the drink from the guy, and just drinks it all down. The poor man starts crying. The truck driver says, "Come on, man, I was just joking. Here, I'll buy you another drink. I just can't stand to see a man cry." "No, it's not that. This day is the worst of my life. First, I overslept and was late to work today. My boss, outrageous, fires me. When I left the building to go to my car, I found out it had been stolen. The police said that they couldn't do anything. I got a cab to return home, and when I got out, I remembered I left my wallet and credit cards there. The cab driver just drives away. I go home, and when I get there, I find my wife in bed with the gardener. I left home and went to this bar, and just when I was thinking about putting an end to my life, you show up and drink my poison." A man left work one Friday afternoon, but being payday instead of going home, he stayed out the entire weekend partying with the boys and spending his entire paycheck. When he finally appeared at home Sunday night, he was confronted by a very angry wife and was berated for nearly 2 hours with a tirade befitting his actions. Finally, his wife stopped the nagging and simply said to him, "How would you like it if you didn't see me for 2 or 3 days?" He replied, "That would be fine with me." Monday went by and he didn't see his wife. Tuesday and Wednesday came and went with the same results. Come Thursday, the swelling went down just enough where he could see her a little out of the corner of his left eye.